tonight, as I mentioned, is the Shaila of Kaddish. Now, we spoke a number of years ago, we said a shir on Kaddish, we went into some of the halachas of Kaddish. Briefly stated, as I mentioned before, Kaddish works because when a person leaves over a son, and the son goes ahead and he says a kaddish, which is a kiddush shem shamayim, that's what you're doing, and the people in the shul answer amen, this is a kiddush shem shamayim barabim, and since this is your son who you left on this planet and he continues to do this, this is a schus for the nifter. The shaila that we're going to discuss here tonight specifically is whether a daughter can say kaddish. So, contrary to what you may think and what I thought before I started looking into this, that this is a modern day shaila. I mean, this probably started in 1970. This shaila apparently goes back a long time. The Chavas Yair in Shuvas Chavas Yair Siman Reish Chav Beis was asked a shaila about a person who left over no sons and left over only daughters and left over in his will that for 12 months after his death there should be a group of people, a minion, that get together in his house every day, and after they finish learning, his daughter should say kaddish in his house. The Chavas Yair. Zok the Chavas Yair paskins and says, he says, technically speaking, I see no reason why a daughter can't say kaddish. A woman is mitzvah in kiddush Hashem just like a man. Just like a man can make a kiddush Hashem, a woman can make a kiddush Hashem. The Chavas Yair over here says, don't think for a minute that we're speaking about a women's minion, because the Chavas Yair says that is an oxymoron. If it's women, it can't be a status of a minion. If it's a minion, it can't be women. We're talking about a minion of men, so we have a bona fide minion. So she's going to say kaddish. I don't see why she can't say kaddish. She's going to say kaddish in front of 10 men who are going to answer amen. So Zok the Chavas Yair, basically I see nothing wrong with it, but the Chavas Yair comes out and says you shouldn't do it. Yissocher shal yedei kain yachlushu kayach haminhagim shal b'nei Yisrael shegam kain toirahem. Zok the Chavas Yair, you start this. You let one guy invent his own chumrah, his own ceremony, you have opened Pandora's box. As the Chavas Yair writes, V'yeh kol echad b'nei bama la'atzmai al pi svarasei. Everybody's going to erect his own little mizbeach, so to speak. Everybody's going to come. This guy comes up with the minig. His daughter should say kaddish. Who knows what's coming next? Zok the Chavas Yair, you don't tamper with minhagim. The minig has always been that the boys say kaddish, don't start. The Chavas Yair marshals the Taisus in Masechta Brachos. That the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos, we're only supposed to bow 3 times in Shema, 4 times in Shemona Esrei, at the beginning of the first bracha, the end of the first bracha, by Modim, and by V'chol HaChayim. So the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos, if you want to bow down at every bracha, you shouldn't. And Taisa says over there, because if once you start and let one guy do a chumrah, so one guy is going to bow down at every bracha, and one guy is going to one-up him and say, I'm going to bow down twice in every bracha, and one guy is going to bow down 3 times in every bracha, and one guy is going to be prostrate the entire Shemenes. We don't do that. Azay Zok Taisus. You don't do that. They knew what they were talking about. All they have to do is be around today. You see what happens. So the Chavas Yair comes out and he says, yes, technically, but you shouldn't do it. The Tshuva Me'ava in Chelik Beisim and Reish Chav Tes says over the following story. In his city, Prague, was no backwater of a town. Prague was an Ir Ve'im B'Yisrael. In his city, Prague, the minhag used to be that after davening, not in the main shul, but in Azara Shebebeik Sakneses. Listen to this. Yoshvu Zekenim v'Zekenais, old men and women, Ivrim u'Pischim, the blind, the lame, Nebuch, the people, the infirm of society. They used to sit there in the shul, in one of the rooms in the shul. Now, what do they do in Prague? So today we know what people do. You watch television, you play cards, you go to the plaza, you schmooze. What did these people do? These Elter and Nebuch people, they sat every single morning and they said all of Sefer Tehillim. And when they finished, sometime afternoon, there were girls there, 5 and 6 years old, who were yissocher, who had no parents, and whose parents left over no sons, and va'amu kaddish. And they said kaddish. The little girls, there was a minion there. He says the only thing the Tshuva Miyava writes is Lo nishma sheyomru kaddish b'veis hakneses atzmai. I don't permit for a girl to say kaddish in the shul proper, but if a girl wants to say kaddish in a room, and she's 5 or 6 years old, nothing wrong. Weiter, the Tshuvas Shvus Yaakov in Siman Tzadi Gimel was asked this shaila. A man left over no sons. He left over a daughter, and the daughter wanted to say kaddish. And this son who died without any sons was survived by his father. So his father wanted to say kaddish for his son. So we know that there's a question in Pesachim whether a father can say kaddish for his son, because technically speaking, a father shouldn't say kaddish for his son. The real way that kaddish works is children's for parents. It doesn't work the other way around. Nebuch, if there's nobody else, so then there are poskim that said that you could do it, but there's a question, can they say kaddish with the other avelim? Do they have the right to take away the schus from the other mourners? So that was the question over here. The father wanted to say kaddish, but this would impinge on the kaddishim of all the other avelim. So the Shvus Yaakov Paskin, the father does not have to say kaddish. Why? Because there's a little girl saying kaddish. So there is someone saying kaddish. The Shvus Yaakov again only permitted this for a girl who was less than bas mitzvah, and he also didn't permit it in the shul. This was in the person's home, but he said that is sufficient that the father doesn't have to say kaddish for his son. So you have over here already 3 days. The Chavis Yor who holds technically yes, but only because we don't want to start new minhagim, no. The Tshuva Miyava that says yes, provided that it's not in the shul and that it's a small girl, and the Shvus Yaakov who agrees and concurs the same thing. On the other side of the equation, you have Rabbi Ephraim Zalman Margolius, who said absolutely not. It's a pritzis for a girl to say kaddish. And the Steichemed writes that he never saw among Sephardic communities that a girl ever said kaddish. So here we have a machlekes hapaiskim. So what is mind-boggling to me is that we have a Latter-day Pesach that addressed this shaila, and a Latter-day Pesach who was the acclaimed, or one of the acclaimed Gedolei Hadar Pesachei Hadar, Rav Yosef Eliyahu Henkin, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, who for up until Rav Moshe really took over, was the Pesach for Rabbonim in America. Rav Henkin wrote in Hapardes, and it was subsequently published in the Chelik Beis of the Kisvei Harav Henkin. Rav Henkin Paskin that a woman who is in the Ezras Nashim and there is a minion of men in the main shul who are saying kaddish with a minion, Rav Henkin paskin that the woman can say kaddish in the Yezras נשים for the women. Again, not in the shul, and not in front of men, and of course not in front of a woman's minion, because there's no such thing as a woman's minion. But if there is a minion in the main shul and the men are saying kaddish, the woman can say kaddish in the Yezras נשים in front of women. And Rav Henkin doesn't say that she has to be less than 12 years old. Well, anyway, you have to do that. But he doesn't address that. So the Minchas Yitzchok from Dayan Whites brings this psak from Rav Henkin, and he says, "V'lepela hu be'enai." Because he can't. It's a pella. It's a wonder that Rav Henkin should say such a thing. So I saw in a sefer She'eris Yosef from Rav Shlomo Warman, who we have spoken out on another occasion, who says, "Offer ani tachas kapes raglov," which means literally, I am dirt under Rav Henkin's feet. And anyone who addresses Rav Henkin must preface his remarks by that, because everybody was dirt under Rav Henkin's feet. I mean, he was mamash from the Gedolei Olam. But he says he doesn't understand Rav Henkin's psak for a technical reason. Because the Aruch HaShulchan writes, and other poskim say that this as well, that an Ezras נשים of a shul has a din of a reshus bifnei atzmai. It's its own separate reshus. So when you ask yourself the question, is the woman saying kaddish in a minyan, you have to come to the conclusion that she's not saying kaddish in a minyan, because the minyan is in the men's shul. And an Ezras נשים has a din of a reshus bifnei atzmai. So technically speaking, she's not saying kaddish in a minyan. And since no one was willing to be mater a woman to say kaddish in the main shul among men, how does it help? He says, ask yourself this question. You live in a shul. You live in a house that is literally next door to a shul. You open your window, the shul opens their window. You mamish have windows that are facing each other. You can hear b'diyuk what's going on in the shul. Does anyone contemplate to say that while they're saying kaddish in the shul, you could say kaddish in your home? Of course not. It's a different reshus. So since the Aruch HaShulchan tells us in Siman Nun Hey that an Ezras נשים is a reshus b'fnei atzmo, it's its own separate entity, how is this called saying kaddish in a minyan? The seeing doesn't help. It's a different reshus. Benching is benching, minyan is minyan. This is a different reshus. You see from the Aruch HaShulchan, the Aruch HaShulchan says Mefurish and Ezras נשים is a reshus b'fnei atzmo. Yes, they can answer. They can answer Baruch Hu, but that's not pshat. They're not making the minyan. They can answer Amen. You hear an Amen. I'm standing outside the window over there. I hear Baruch Hu. I can answer Amen. I hear Kaddish. I can say Yesh Me Rabbah. But that doesn't mean that I'm in a minyan. So therefore, he tied this on Rav Henkin. He says again, but he doesn't understand it. So I think, as far as what I know from normative Jewish practice, in traditional communities, women don't say kaddish even under the circumstances that Rav Henkin says so. Seems, at least from my experience, that the minhag is not like that. But it comes as a surprise to me that there are so many credible poskim who at least contemplated under at least some circumstances. Well, in other words, what emerges from the other poskim, that a girl under bas mitzvah and a girl in the privacy of her own home, together with a minyan of men, there are poskim that indeed held that a little girl could say kaddish. I would just like